It's at DigitalPondUK for Twitter, and the hashtag is DigitalPond. So we've got a really full packed agenda. I'm going to get out of the way now and hand over to Matt Gibson to kick off tonight.
Hello, good evening. My name's Matt, and tonight I'm going to help you get in touch with your evil side. Because let's be honest, we're all a little bit evil, aren't we? We're a little bit despicable at heart. Maybe not like sharks with laser beams on their heads level of evil, I can't speak for all of you, but we're all a little bit despicable. And I'm going to talk about how we can turn that evil into something good. So, to prove this, who remembers this story from last week? Yeah, quite a few. Who remembers it now? The woman who got trapped in a window trying to retrieve a poo after the Tinder date. Hands up who found that funny. You see, we're all a little bit evil and a little bit mean at heart, and taking pleasure in the misfortune of a poor young lady who was just going on a date, trying to throw a poo out of a window. Come on, we've all been there, come on. So in this session, what I'm going to be doing is helping you get into the villain psyche and how thinking like an evil genius can help us in our UX process and lead to more creative and more empathic design solutions. It's a bit paradoxical, I agree. It's a bit like me telling you to eat more to lose weight. So you just have to stick with me through this process. On the backs of your chairs, you'll notice there are some post-it notes, or there's a post-it note on the back of each of your chairs. Please don't throw those away. I've got some diabolical designs for what we'll be doing with those later. But do get your pens or whatever ready for that later. So, why, I can hear you asking, why, Matt, do you have to be such a villainous bastard to be empathic? Well, in my role at Cyberduck, I'm a director and also a designer, and our team quite regularly gets asked to come and help organisations who need help with improving their product or service. And as part of that, part of our role is facilitating the generation of new ideas and new ways of approaching a problem. So we do this with organisations of all shapes and sizes, like cancer research, University of London, to financial institutes like the Bank of England, to retail clients like Thomas Cook. And sometimes when these organisations approach us, they're aware they have a problem. They've got perhaps clients, customers complaining to them, or they're losing customers, but they have no idea where to start. Sometimes they find themselves managing conflict internally, so they're not quite sure what direction to take, or they're balancing user needs versus business needs, or sometimes they're simply stuck in a rut and they're not actually sure where to go next. Now, of course, when we start working with these companies, the first place we usually start is research, and to help us to understand who we're designing for better, and exposing the client directly to that research. But I'm going to be talking about the next stage beyond that, which is ideating solutions from our research. So this is where thinking like an evil supervillain comes in. Turn the volume up a little bit. Okay, so there's a good reason for all of this. The trouble with traditional ways of brainstorming, and this is my mug, by the way, I drink tea out of it every day, is that it's really hard for people to come up with good, thought-through ideas off the bat. Naturally, people are inhibited by the fact that they're in front of their colleagues. They don't want to present an idea that's perhaps, seems like not thought through, or that isn't a good idea. And sometimes what you find in these meetings is that there'll be one or two people who will dominate that discussion. And whether they realise it or not, a lot of participants will be influenced by that small group of people, and they will go along with that dominant idea, dominant way of thinking. There's studies on this, and it's a psychological phenomenon known as collaborative fixation. It's more commonly known as groupthink, and what it means is that people will tend to go along with the dominant ideas of the group, which ultimately reduces the breadth and originality and creativity of the solutions that get created. In brainstorms, we're also usually told, there's no such thing as a bad idea. Just spitball, let's just throw some ideas around. And there's no such thing as a bad idea. But there is, isn't there? Come on, let's be honest. There's clearly lots and lots of bad ideas. Whether it's a potty that's designed to keep your child glued to a screen all the time, bad idea. A toaster that actually fails in its function as a toaster because it doesn't toast all of the bread, bad idea. Oh, we'll get to that. Or even Manchester reinventing how to do the Oyster card through an app where basically if you lose connection to the internet, your tickets expire. It's a whole debacle. Honestly, I implore you to read up on it, but bad idea. There's obviously, there's a lot of bad ideas in the world, and the list just goes on. While we're in that mode, it's hard to find a good idea in amongst those bad ideas, because how do you begin to tell good from bad if you're just throwing good ideas and bad ideas at the same time? So what do we need to do? We need to get our evil on. We need to tap into that inner supervillain that we all have inside of us, as I proved earlier, and think specifically about bad ideas first. So when we work with clients and we run these workshops, what we do is we ask them questions like, how can we make this product completely awful? Like, what's the worst thing we could do for our users? How can we make it so bad that our users want to go on Twitter and have a rant about us? So this is your turn now. So this is where these post-it notes come in. So if you could grab your post-it notes and a pen, or if you're more digitally inclined, grab your phone. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think about and write down a way in which a product or a service or a design or something that you're working on right now, how you could make that worse. And honestly, the more devious the better. I mean, come on, you can make it worse than the idea that's first coming to your brain. To add a little tension to your evil doing, I will be counting the 30 seconds using the countdown clock. Okay, how did we get on with creating some evil ideas for your businesses? Who wants to share some of their ideas? Yeah, go for it.
So we are putting together a video-based mobile app business. The first point is the users to click on the app and then register themselves. So we put some very scary pictures that will scare them away.
Oh, some scary pictures to scare away your users. Who's got something that's worse than that? At the back there, yeah, go for it.
When the user stops scrolling, show them an ad.
When they stop scrolling, every time they stop scrolling, show them an ad. That's pretty awful. Like I said, there's scales of evilness in the audience. Anybody else? Go for it.
Don't let users cancel.
Don't let users cancel. There's quite a lot of companies to do that. Okay, so we'll come back to this in a little while. But the idea is unconventional, but it actually works. So this example here, this is with one of our publishing clients. And within a couple of hours, we managed to generate thousands of ideas from only published negative stories to make it impossible to find their team page, obviously for their football team, have really boring or misleading headlines. And here's the reason why I think this process works, is that there are fewer barriers to entry. Everybody is capable, as we've proven, of creating bad ideas. There's no such thing as a wrong answer. And all stakeholders can get involved. It's not just a designer thing, like literally all stakeholders within the team can get involved in it. And everybody's on the level playing field. The second part is it's fun. And humour is the key to creativity. It's something that John Cleese recognised when he said that humour is an essential part of spontaneity. It's an essential part of playfulness, and an essential part of the creativity that we need to solve problems, no matter how serious they might be. The third part is that the possibilities are literally endless. There are no limits to how bad we can be, and everything can be made worse. Like literally all the ideas you just mentioned just now, they could be made even worse. And most importantly, throughout that exercise, the focus is on the user. The user becomes, the client becomes connected with the user. And this is the true value of running bad idea workshops, is that it builds empathy within your team. So the word empathy, and I apologise if there's any Germans in the audience because I'm going to try and pronounce this. The word empathy originates from a translation of a word called Einfühlung, and it's made of two parts, which roughly translates into feeling. And it was originally invented to explain the experience that people have when they feel a sense of oneness with a piece of artwork, where the boundary between their self and the other becomes blurred without completely disappearing altogether. And it's used today to describe the capacity to understand or feel what another person might be experiencing from their frame of reference. Often we use the phrase stepping into somebody else's shoes. And that's what's happening when we're sharing our evil ideas, is that as each idea is shared, you hear groans or, like we heard earlier, like, ooh, pained noises. And as we're doing that, what we're doing is actually building, in a kind of a weird way, empathy with our users, because we're connecting with them and understanding the pain that we could be putting them through. And by plotting our ideas as a series of unfortunate events, so if we put them sequentially, this is, as a user journey, we could begin to consider the pain points that the user might experience using our product. We perhaps explore things like their emotional state as they're using our product. And we sort of plot out their journey from hell, basically, with our ideas. And by doing this, we come to a realization. That realization is that we all have the ability, and when I say all, I mean designers and non-designers, have the ability to make an experience worse. But at the same time as that, we realize that we all have the ability to make an experience better as well, and that's the whole team has the ability to do that. Obviously, it's no good just having dreadful ideas. We need to turn them into something positive and tangible, right? So what we do is we get our team to reflect and consider each awful idea that they come up with, and really think about what was it that made that idea terrible? Like, what is the quality of that idea that makes it terrible? So we write down those qualities. So from our publisher, for example, hide the content that people want to read. That could translate, the quality of that is that basically the information architecture is not very good. And then what we do is we actually reverse those qualities and look at what would the polar opposite of that quality be. So for example, really bad information architecture, well, we want to make it as intuitive as possible for people to find their content so that they don't actually have to go searching for it. Now, obviously, armed with our list of positive qualities we want our product to have, the group is able to start writing ideas of, rather than making the experience worse, how do we make that experience even better? So again, this is over to you. What I would like to do is give you another 30 seconds. Think of the quality that your bad idea that you came up with earlier is, flip it, and then write down at least one good idea on the opposite side of your post-it note. And again, you have about... Okay, I think the mic's just cut out. Can you guys all still hear me okay? We'll go without the mic. Who wants to share some of their good ideas?
I will start again.
Okay.
I think it was a good idea. I put again, my business is a video-based mobile app for life skills learning. So I started a great quote on the sign-in page about why learning is fun and learning is important.
Awesome. Anybody else? Oh, we've got a new mic. Awesome. Cool. So, again, we plot those ideas as a sequence of events. So what we do is we map out the opposite of our earlier evil journeys, and instead plot the kind of journeys that people instead will make them happier, the kind of journeys that will make our users more likely to return, and the kind of journeys that will actually, instead of our users going on Twitter to rant about us, the kind of journeys that will make our users want to go on Twitter to tell everyone how great we are. So again, going back to that example with the publishing client, that exercise before, that really helped us build upon our findings from card sorting earlier in the project, because we could see that navigation was a massive issue for that client, and simplifying navigation was really important. So working with the client to develop those ideas themselves helped us when we needed to simplify the navigation down to something that's just absolutely necessary. Now, starting with evil ideas first might seem like a silly, if not crazy, proposition. But as I've seen time and again, it actually delivers a lot of value. The first is that it's user-centric. We get the whole team thinking about the user first. It encourages creativity. There's less pressure to come up with a good idea immediately. We have the time to ponder the problem. We give ourselves time to actually think about the problem. Plus, it's also fun. It relaxes us and it allows us to be a little bit more creative and think outside the box. Thirdly, it gets the whole team on side. So rather than just perhaps a few designers rushing off, creating some prototypes, going back to the team and having to sell those back to the team, actually the whole team is generating the ideas, which means that everyone's bought into the ideas that are generated. And finally, in its own strange way, it helps the team to build empathy with the user. As we all know, empathy breeds better design. Thank you very much.